Yes, so welcome back. You're still watching Power Breakfast right here on Citizen TV, and we continue with our news review. And you can see my panel just grew bigger, and it's because Bwana David Ocheng finally found his way here. This is the MP for Ugenya. Karibu sana Bwana Ocheng.
Asante.
Now, of course, when we started our news review this day, I tried to explain to our audience who exactly our members are in this panel, and Bwana Ocheng happens to be an ODM rebel, or at least a reluctant participant. Yes? Of course, he denies all that. He denies all that and says he's firmly in ODM, but is he? He'll tell us that. Of course, among other things, he's among those people who presented a bill in Parliament proposing that the election date be moved from August next year to at least the 3rd Tuesday of December.
Yes.
Yes? So at least you understand where he comes from.
What have you been smoking lately?
You understand where he comes from. So now let's take a look at, let's move to politics, and I want us to start with the bid to impeach Kidero. Of course, we saw what happened last week, and of course, Governor Evans Kidero, it's on the front page of the Daily Nation and on the inside pages as well. Governor Evans Kidero holds on, his hold on Nairobi politics will be tested once again today when his opponents push forward with their plan to impeach him. The impeachment bid reflects the undercurrents in city politics, where both Jubilee and CORD are seeking to control a county government with a 30.8 billion shilling budget and a debt of 42 billion shillings. I don't know why people are fighting for that. And a renegade CORD MCA, Samuel Nyang'wara, is expected to read the private motion today. Of course, Nyang'wara is the same person who was roughed up when he tried reading this impeachment motion last week, and he was not able to present it. Of course, we are waiting to see what will happen today. But let's start with you, Bwana Muluka. Who really could be interested in unseating Bwana Kidero or impeaching him? Only 10 months to the general election.
I don't think this is a serious effort at impeachment. This is tragic mischief. That we have got people who see that the elections are around the corner, and who are, of course, aware that the governor superintends over a big cachet, and who would like to twist the governor, and we are going to see a lot more of this kind of tragic and petty mischief. That if things have gone wrong in Nairobi, they have gone wrong over a long period of time. And the time to address questions of impeachment was there a long time ago. They should have addressed this. We are now on the home stretch, and there are fellows here who could just be spoiling for some handouts.
Yes. Do you agree that it actually has a lot to do with handouts? Because surely 10 months to the general elections, who has the time to really go after an impeachment motion?
I think it has a lot to do with who wants to be the next governor. Handouts or no handouts, and timing for me is not a problem. If there's a problem in a county, we should not stop doing things because it's 10 months elections. But in this particular case, you can be sure that the MCA concerned isn't quite about what he's talking about. It's about, elections are coming up. What can we get from Kidero? What can he give us? Can we? And this is not only Nairobi. These MCAs have been moving motions all over the country to try to get the eye of the governor, and 2-3 months later, you see the person who's moving a motion to remove a governor is now the most ardent sycophant of that governor. Yes. So that has brought issues really to do with whether these people are honest. But the case 2-3-4 weeks ago about Nyeri was quite different, because we saw the MCAs actually sleeping in the chambers because they had issues in there. And 2 weeks later, you saw what the court did. But in this particular case, you don't see a cogent case from Mr. Nyang'wara. You don't see, you tell us this is what the governor has done. This is the reasons we want to remove the governor. And the law clearly states what are the grounds of impeachment. And you don't clearly see those grounds in Mr. Nyang'wara's. But nothing in what Mr. Nyang'wara is trying to do allows an MCA to physically manhandle another. There is nothing in what he's trying to do. If they know what he's doing is not serious, why are they trying to beat him up? Why can they allow him to, you cannot be bringing men in black into the assembly because you don't want your case, someone to present their case. It shows bad manners.
It's part of our culture.
MCAs should now know that the house they go to is a honorable house, and they should allow debate to take place. I also want to request the governor and the Speaker Magelo to take charge of the county.
Of course, we can say that they've learned as well from their bigger brothers at the National Assembly, of course, because we've seen such actions there. But it could also be argued that moving an impeachment motion against the governor provides probably the best avenue to bring out some of the issues that you want to say the governor has failed here and there and there. And an impeachment motion gives you actually a platform to actually list those things down, and they receive publicity.
I think to me the timing is a suspect, and maybe before commenting further is that we call upon the MCAs to debate with decorum. It is a honorable house. It's not those days of councillors. No, they're honorable members of the county assembly, and MCA Nyangwara, or whatever it's called, he should be allowed to give his notice of motion. But now, following on the issue of timing, and also looking at some of those issues, to me, I find they don't meet the threshold, because one of the issues he was saying that this county development funds, like equivalent to the CDF, and already a ruling had already been done that is it's not required. It's against the law. So to me, when I look at the grounds that is basing on them, those grounds are baseless, and we can't rule out politics. You must know that Nairobi controls almost about 60% of the GDP, and as we go towards elections, we are seeing many people scrambling for this seat. And of course, as Kidero is there, we're also seeing people from the Jubilee side trying to scramble. We are seeing so many other candidates coming. So you can't rule out the issue of politics, and particularly when they're using an ODM, the code representative. So as we look into this issue, to me, I can't rule out politics. And this is why you've had even the Deputy President said that we will do everything possible to ensure that we get the governorship of Nairobi. So to me, I'm reading politics as we move towards the general election.
And it is indeed true that Jubilee has declared that it will fight through all means possible to get the governorship of Nairobi. And Jubilee has been accused of being behind this impeachment motion. Of course, it's an ODM MCA who's pushing it, but as a smokescreen, probably, we do not know. But a quote here on page 5 of the Daily Nation, one person says, telling off this MCA, and is also a colleague of his, Mr. Mberia, saying, "Akule ile bond pole pole." Yeah? He will not bring that motion to the House. He's being a Jubilee, a spokesperson for Jubilee for matters of this panel. What do you have to say to that?
I think this issue of impeachment of Governor Kidero, the fact that it's being brought to the floor by CORD MCA is a clear message that even the CORD members have lost confidence in their own leadership. And it means that the failure of Nairobi County government is even being felt even by the same people who voted in Kidero. What is happening now is that Nairobi is available for liberation, and Jubilee, we are coming to liberate Nairobi so they can give it the leadership that it deserves. In terms of violence, I think I'm not surprised to fight violence among CORD supporters, because as my friend Ochieng has referred to Men in Black, that's where the violence started from. Kasarani, when ODM was conducting its election, it was disturbed by the same people. People from CORD in Black fighting their own membership when they are trying to exercise their democratic rights. When it came to the National Assembly, when the President was actually giving his State of the Nation address, people were elected as members of Parliament, came by Philippines to disturb the peace of the House, which is actually against the standing orders. So these younger brothers, in terms of hierarchy, in the County Assembly of Nairobi, are actually trying to borrow a leaf from their leadership. I think what you should do is you should castigate violence at all levels, and I think any particular party that actually uses violence to achieve its political objective should actually be should not call itself a political party. In terms of suspecting Jubilee, I think it has become ridiculous to us Jubilee people. You don't want to whatever wrong happens in CORD.
But you said by hook or crook.
Yeah.
You are seated right where
he
was seated right where he was.
Yes.
No, he
he
didn't
is now.
understand the meaning of crook.
And he said that they must get Nairobi by hook.
I'm coming to that. Hold your horses. I'm coming to that. I said it, yes, I did. But I'm saying, I didn't say I'm going to use violence. You people are using violence.
Hook or crook.
So I'm saying this. Can you make me?
Let him finish
talk.
because you need to move on to another.
What I'm saying, we're going to use all the legal means, even if you want to put it by hook or crook.
No, it was
the
you.
people of Nairobi require liberation. Okay?
And Jubilee.
And these people, we are already in the power in Nairobi, have lost direction. They have lost faith in themselves. So they have to be liberated. So what is happening is, and I'm saying this, Fred, CORD has lost direction. CORD is disintegrating. CORD is a violent party, a violent movement. CORD cannot be trusted in anything. So what I'm saying is that Jubilee, what you are doing, you are positioning ourselves.
Are you saying that as Jubilee you have nothing to do with it?
You should not be allowed. You should not be allowed.
I'll be allowed, but I'll be allowed. I'll be allowed because you had your time.
These kinds of things gain traction. We have seen the violence in Nyeri. It was not done by CORD, and I don't speak for CORD.
Yes.
We have seen the violence in Kandara, and that is not CORD. We have seen violence in Kutus, where he comes from, in Embu, and in such other places. So I think that kind of...
but you see, Fred, what is happening? Let me say this. Let me finish.
The opportunity was for you to actually say Jubilee's position in terms of the accusations that
I'm saying Jubilee has nothing to do with the mess in CORD, even in City Hall. And you see what Barak is doing is perfect, what they are good at. Whenever they CORD, and I know he doesn't speak for CORD, whenever something wrong happens in CORD, they try to pass the blame to somewhere else. That what should stop. That should stop. My friend, that you should stop doing that. Don't blame Jubilee for your problems, because elections are coming. Elections are coming. They are going to liberate Nairobi.
The time for fighting will come.
Yeah, okay, today.
The time for fighting will come. Let's now move on to Fort Kenya and what is happening in CORD. And Bwana Wamalwa. Wetangula is denying that he's leaving CORD, and of course we know that when you deny a rumor, you're probably just confirming something. Yes. I don't know if that is the case, but the core principle says he is a founding member of the coalition, and those claiming he's on his way out are engaged in idle talk. Now the Star, of course, is the one that has captured this, because this is a political newspaper. That headline is only on the Star. And on this spread, the Star even gives options for Wetangula. Should he stick to CORD, no matter the outcome of the presidential nomination? Should he go it alone as a Fort Kenya party? Should he join Jubilee and bolt from CORD, or should he form a coalition, probably with other parties away from the affiliate parties of CORD currently? But some members of ODM have already accused Wetangula of being funded by Jubilee. We understand he's bought a new chopper, which is already in Fort Kenya colors, and is moving around the country and popularizing the Jubilee party. We've heard him say categorically that Raila Odinga, in fact calling him the old man, should step down for him. Yet we know that already within CORD there was a plan to actually go popularize your party, then we come together and have a nomination process for the flag bearer. So this talk of one person stepping down for the rest, we are hearing it from your party leader. These accusations, is there some truth to them?
Now, I want to state that Wetangula is not leaving CORD. First and foremost, he's a founder member of CORD. We built this house. By the way, I was part and parcel of the MOU that was drafted, that was given to the register of political parties. I just want to request the honorable members who've been yapping here and there to have a chance to look at it and see what these parts say. You know, when two people, when one person leaves, the movement continues. Okay? So in this case, Wetangula, Raila Odinga, and Kalonzo Musyoka are part and parcel of CORD. So there's nowhere that Wetangula is going. You are a shareholder. How do you leave the house you build? You go where? So he's not going anywhere. And as Fort Kenya, we are there as shareholders. But when it comes to the flag bearer issue, I've said many times that all the three principles have an equal chance and equal opportunity of being the flag bearer. What we agreed, as far as CORD is concerned, that each respective party should go and strengthen itself. Having a strong Fort Kenya, a strong ODM, a strong Wiper, is a plus to the CORD coalition. We are not going the Jubilee way, the way they have come together, as our strategy is totally different. And this is what's happening. And we have different methodologies that we're going to use to come up with a flag bearer. One of the methodologies that we want to use, one, is for the three principals to sit together, look at their merits and demerits, and see who is the best person to score. Just like when Manu is playing, maybe he's playing Arsenal, and we have Rooney. You find that the Rooney playing there, being a dangerous player, you'll find so many people marking him. And maybe you give another person, he can score. So we are looking at so many strategies. And just like what the Bible says, that the weak stone became the cornerstone. So in this case, we don't want the perception that's been going around with some people we've been seeing coming up with different allegations here and there. Wetangula is there, is not going anywhere. We are looking at the methodologies that are there so that we can have a democratic process in terms of coming up with a flag bearer. And on the issue of funding with Jubilee, there's no funding that Jubilee is giving Wetangula. It's not. Wetangula, we have been trying, we have different people, as party members, we also do contributions to run the party. We also get funds from the political party's fund. So can you show me, where is he moving around? Where has he been given the money by Jubilee? This allegation had been there, and it was said by Waluke. Waluke is the one who mentioned about this, that Duale was giving funding to Weta through the Jubilee, and the matter is even in court. You see, when you say such a thing, you are the one who has the burden of proof. So whoever is saying that should be given the burden to prove how Jubilee is funding Wetangula. Because as far as I know, I'm top in the hierarchy of the party. There's no funding. We are getting money from the political party's fund, just like any other party. And we ourselves, as members of parliament, we're also giving our own contributions to run the party. So what we are saying, we are telling the CORD members, and particularly some of the legislators from CORD. I was abroad, I was in Boston, and I was looking at the news.
I saw you.
And two ladies, I don't know, some people are calling them flower girls. Some allegations somewhere, but they are honorable members, are not flower girls. Honorable Mishi and Honorable Aisha Juma, particularly what Honorable Mishi said, casting aspersions against one of the core principals, Kalonzo Musyoka. To me, it was not proper. We must have respect for our leaders, and we wait for the process that is going to take place. For us to remove Jubilee from power, we must go there united. We can't there go as alone. So I'm calling upon honorable members to respect our principles, not to go once you are, you know, when you are given that mic, I know you can see anything, but we must not go into the trap of Jubilee. We must respect our partners, so that we are going to have a democratic process of coming up of the flag bearer, so that we remove Jubilee from power.
You mentioned methodology in coming up with a flag bearer for CORD, but is what Senator Moses Wetangula saying, that Raila Odinga should step down for him, part of the methodology?
Now, it's not just Wetangula who has said that. Raila Amolo Odinga has also said it. He has said, I'm calling upon Kalonzo and Wetangula to leave it for me. When Kalonzo was in Mombasa, he said the same thing. So everybody wants it. So we're not seeing just Wetangula saying that. Everybody is striving. Everybody wants. So that's why we've given them the first option of them agreeing, looking at their merits and their demerits, and looking at the opportunity cost that might be there. So that is one of the options. So by Wetangula requesting and telling Raila Amolo Odinga, yes, the king, which is the kingmaker is as good as the king, that is his way of maybe persuading Raila. So to me, it's it's in order. I don't see anything wrong with that. We've seen Kalonzo saying it, and we've seen even Raila himself saying it.
Yes, you know the worry I have is the CORD base. The CORD base is a worried base, let me tell you. And the hemorrhage happening now, especially when we see the leaders talking at each other, is not something that that our base wants. I'll tell you this, that Raila, Kalonzo Wetangula are playing with fire. What they are doing is not what Kenyans want them to do. I mean, I listen to people. They want a candidate tomorrow. I mean, you cannot tell us. Wetangula goes and says that someone is firing blanks. I saw yesterday news. How can you say that against your someone is firing blanks, and therefore someone else should be put there? Kalonzo says he's been out of government too long. He wants to be in government.
I don't think he said that.
I mean, he's in the papers.
Give him his chance. Give him his chance.
You know, I belong to
CORD.
I think you spoke around 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. But don't mislead. I
belong to CORD. I belong to ODM as a party, and the reason we are where we are is the smooching. The kind of thing you see Omolo doing, lying to our leaders that this is right, that what we are doing is the right thing. Raila, Kalonzo, and Wetangula must take charge of their coalition. They must tell Kenyans that they're serious or what they want. Because when we see them talking across purpose, the same weekend, our enemy is Jubilee. Our enemy is not Wetangula, our enemy is not Kalonzo or Raila, our enemy is Jubilee. But when on a weekend, you see them talking against each other, what message are they sending to the Kenyans? That they can't agree. And I want to remind you, and this is why I personally fear that we are not headed in the right direction. CORD wasn't born through a wedding or a party. It was almost a forced kind of a thing. And unless
forced marriage,
unless
It
we
was not
work,
forced marriage.
unless
It was
we
negotiated.
cultivate it, unless we cultivate that relationship, we're headed for very tough times.
Yes.
That I can assure you.
Yes, so Bwana Njogu Barua, before we come to Bwana Muluka, Bwana Njogu Barua, we've been struggling to get headlines for Jubilee throughout the week because even yesterday across all three papers it was just a CORD. But it's not necessarily positive news for CORD. On the other hand, we don't have any news for Jubilee.
Yes.
It's a very rare, which is also not very good because we are in an election year. We should be reading about what Jubilee is doing. But this kind of news from CORD, does it make you sit pretty?
I think we are okay, is Jubilee, because what is happening here is that even from what you have heard from Honorable Cheng, that CORD is a forced marriage. That's good enough for us.
It was not a forced
The other thing is,
negotiated marriage.
you know, these are one of the partners now being dissenting to the whole thing. What I'm saying is that CORD has been the news because what the media is using is the news values. And one of the news values is disaster. So CORD has been the news because of the disaster news value. When you see Wetangula, somebody claiming that Wetangula has left CORD, and him denying, he's just confirming that he's leaving CORD. When Chris Wamala asks, where is Wetangula going to? I can answer, he's going back to Ford Kenya. That's where he came from. The other issue is in ODM, Kalonzo and Wetangula.
In CORD.
In CORD, to be honest, quote unquote, they are junior partners, and they know this. And they were there for convenience, hoping that Raila would say, I've tried for so long, I'll give a chance to somebody else. So they are just there, wakimeza mate, wapatio hiyo, chance ya kusimama. But Raila has said, I'm still strong enough to run for this office. The issue is, Joho also in the other side of Mombasa has come in to complicate the situation. He's coming out to be more stronger. He is coming out to be stronger than even Wetangula. On the issue of funding of Wetangula, when you launched our Jubilee Party, we were with some comrades from the opposition who came and declared their interest in working with Jubilee. Wetangula was not one of them. So there is no way we can waste our money on Wetangula. He's not one of our friends.
And before we move from Njogu Barua, because of exactly what is happening within CORD, and this story on page 30 of the Star, because your majority leader has spoken about what is happening in CORD. And something you just mentioned now, that Joho is becoming very powerful. Yes. And in comparison to Bwana Kalonzo and Moses Wetangula, and we're quoting the story as it is now. You'll fall and break your skull if you pick Joho, Duale tells Raila. And you know Duale doesn't really care about CORD politics, but he does, according to what we see, because now he says that picking Joho as his running mate, Raila, as opposed to having Kalonzo and Wetangula with him, would be the downfall. Because I want Bwana Muluka to give us some analysis of what is happening. I know, of course, the two gentlemen have some things to say, and I'll give you a chance. But
Duale saying that Raila will break his skull. He's right, because Joho is playing opportunistic politics.
Are you not scared of the Raila Joho?
No, we are not. In fact, it's an easy thing to deal with. What I'm saying is, I want to repeat it again. Joho is playing opportunistic politics. Joho is trying to borrow a leaf from Uhuru Kenyatta. When Uhuru Kenyatta decided not to vie in 2007 to support Mwai Kibaki. And when it came to 2013, Uhuru Kenyatta was able to get the entire Mwai Kibaki's following. So what is happening is that Joho has realized that CORD may not be going very far. But in the meantime, since he is not boarding out from CORD, and there's something for him to inherit, he wants to show that is the #1 supporter of CORD, so that when it comes to 2022,
Yes.
When Raila may not seek election for presidency, Joho will be able to inherit Raila Odinga's turf. So what Duale is saying is true. This is what Joho is doing. Joho is walking right at the gallows,
yes,
so that he can die politically. Then he takes over that thing. Then Raila Odinga on the other side is trying to work very close to Joho, so that they can understand him and control him.
Yes, my curiosity is being drawn by the fact that even the Jubilee is now commenting on the realignments within CORD and whether or not Raila and Joho should go together, or should Raila go with Kalonzo or Wetangula. And it's a very interesting thing, because when Jubilee starts commenting on these realignments within CORD, there is something. But even as we continue with our news review, of course, something else is happening on the other side of the studio. Willis Raburu and his team, we can see some very nice looking food on the table there. What exactly is happening there? I cannot see Willis, but of course something nice is cooking, and of course as we go along with the show we'll know exactly what is happening there, and probably if we can get an opportunity to have a taste of what they have. Of course, Bwana Muluka, last week you missed out on the chicken.
I'll have double today.
Yes. So back to our news review, and before we come to you, Bwana Wamalwa, of course everyone within CORD says it is a strategy. We're going out to popularize our parties, strengthen our parties, and because if there's stronger parties, stronger affiliate parties mean a stronger coalition. Is it really a strategy from where you sit, Bwana Muluka?
You know, first for Jubilee, leader of majority, to come and start advising Raila Odinga about what will make him strong and what will break his skull is an indication that they are in panic about what is happening. If you see your opponent getting weak, you don't caution them and tell them what they should do to become stronger. That rests there with Mheshimiwa Barua, and he also needs to admit that the marriage in Jubilee was actually forced. It was forced by the ICC process. The marriage in CORD was a marriage of convenience. Mheshimiwa Wamalwa calls it negotiated, but it was a marriage of convenience. There are certain perspectives in which certain people felt sort of jilted, and it was necessary for them to come together. Now, last evening, Kalonzo Musyoka called me to complain that I had sat here and suggested that he had bolted and that he was going to Jubilee. What is happening in CORD is that they are now paying the price for what is called a single story, single narrative. And they started that single narrative against Musalia Mudavadi and against other people who seemed to straddle the two coalitions, or who seemed to distance themselves from the two. They created this notion that if you are not in Jubilee, you are in CORD. If you are not in CORD, you are in Jubilee. They popularized that narrative, and they made Jubilee to look like the headquarters again of leprosy. And so that if you leave CORD, then you are joining the leprosy department. Now they've gotten to a point where their own dynamics are dictating that they may want to explore other options. And yet each time you try to explore that other option, you look like you are going to that place which you have demonized. It's something they have to reckon with. I don't see that there's any merit in, say, Raila Odinga receiving defectors from Ford Kenya and calling that strengthening his party and strengthening the coalition. It is called self-inflicted cannibalism. They are cannibalizing themselves, they are cannibalizing each other, and they are spending far too much energy in internal conflict and leaving their opponents out there. There's far too much internal attrition. And meanwhile, the fellows they are supposed to be contesting against in the future are actually getting stronger by the day. So they need to give themselves some fighting chance. That they need that fighting space. And therefore, the sooner they accept the reality and say that we are now dealing at cross purposes, the better for them. And
they call it strategic. Do you agree?
There's nothing strategic about calling each other names in public. But we are the public, and we the public are perceiving them as a house divided against itself, and we know that a house that is divided against itself will fall.
Yes.
So they all need to do something to consolidate, to come together, or to go their separate ways, and as they go their separate ways, maybe pray that they can force a rerun on Jubilee.
Yes, you still call it a strategy, that what your party leader is doing is strengthening his own party and for better coalition, but we are seeing that you're losing members to ODM. Olago Aluoch has gone back home, apparently.
Yeah, that's true. As Olago has gone, you should also realize that Honorable Dr. Kibunkuchi, the MP for Likuyan using ODM, came to Fort Kenya.
And this cannibalism. This is what you're saying is strategy?
Absolutely. So the net effect, as far as I'm concerned, is not weakening each other, we are strengthening each other. When it comes to Busia, Honorable Nyura also came to Fort Kenya. We've seen even Senator Boni Khalwale has also come to Fort Kenya. So as far as that internal competition is concerned, I don't see it a big deal. And that's why I've said severally that this is a negotiated marriage. It was not a forced marriage, maybe the way other honorable members had said it, but depends from what context are you trying to interpret this. So really, as we go out to strengthen our parties, we're also going to have other strategies like mapping. And we've put it clearly, we are going to have a joint nomination of the flag bearer. It's not going to fall out. Whatever Joe is doing here, this is an ODM affair. So they've been moving around as ODM to strengthen themselves as ODM. Fort Kenya, we've also been moving to strengthen ourselves. We've seen Wiper also doing the same. After we finalize on the issue of the joint nomination, now we'll come to the other ones. Now, when we come down there is when we're going to have a strategic meeting to look at now what strategies are we going to put in place so that we can have an ideal situation, if possible, of having one candidate. But if it doesn't work, we want to go the PNU way, the way it was. So what I want to tell the public here is just wait and see. And there's no way you can say that Jubilee is strengthening itself. Jubilee is weakening, it's falling apart.
You see, what I want to advise, I've got two things to say on this.
Yes, and me I've got two.
The CORD coalition and the principals must come out and tell Kenyans that they are together. And two, you cannot go back to your homeland. Wetangula convincing Western people that he's going to be the flag bearer. Kalonzo telling Kamba is going to be the flag bearer and all that. It will not get us anywhere. They need to be clear that we are going back on the same ticket we had last time. For these reasons, we never won, and the way the dynamics are, we must convince everyone else that the best candidate is so and so for this reason. Okay? But if you're going to prevaricate and start these small wars, it won't go very far.
No war.
Especially when you have not. I mean, if you have people speaking against each other, and Honorable Malwa, I know you are close to Wetangula.
Yes,
let us not lie to our principles that what we are doing is the right thing. It's wrong. It's not giving confidence to our bases. Two, and I said here last time, Joe has seen a vacuum.
Yes.
Joe has seen a Raila who is under siege from his core principles. And like Kalonzo and Wetangula said, everyone is saying that we have options. ODM is saying, if you guys want to go, we have options. Wetangula is saying, even we have options. It's actually a strategy for negotiations. That for your partners to come around your views, then you must tell them that if you don't come around my views, then I've got options. It is a good strategy, but it's not leading us where it's supposed to lead, especially 9 months to elections.
I'll give you a chance to say something, but then after that we'll take a story, because you mentioned about options, and we see what kind of options that CORD could be considering.
Yeah, mine is a comment to say that what Honorable Cheng is saying, I think it's good about the principles giving them direction. The first thing I would like to say is that first and foremost, as Kenyans, you should not tell Kenyans that Jubilee is an enemy of CORD.
Of the people.
Of CORD. Okay. It's not an enemy of the CORD. Jubilee is just a political opponent, a rival or competitor with CORD. Because you must use the right terminologies so that you can make Kenyans not think that we are fighting.
Okay.
The other thing is that when Wetangula Kalwale is oscillating between ODM, Third Force, and Ford Kenya, New Ford Kenya. That is not strengthening CORD. I don't care about a weak CORD, but that is not strengthening CORD. It is what they call inbreeding. They're just internally inbreeding. When Raila Odinga says that he's strengthening CORD and goes to Kisumu, gets a mum of the crowd, what else do you expect? That is bedrock. Then he moves to Mombasa, to Meru, to get a mum of the crowd in Mombasa. That is not strengthening CORD.
Big crowd in Narok. And
okay, then he goes to Narok, okay? Where Narok, we shared 50-50, about 50-50. I'm not saying that they're very strong in Narok. We can still get a crowd in Narok. The other thing is, Raila is a good entertainer. Wherever he goes, people go and watch him to be entertained and to hear these vitendawidis and so forth. As an old man, he's entertaining us very well. So you cannot
trivialize matters the way we're discussing here is
okay, we did know that. But you say now, all I'm saying is that getting a strong crowd in Kisumu does not lead to a strong CORD. Okay. The other thing is Wetangula cannot be financed by Jubilee. Wetangula should basically right now retire from politics. Because he has been actually been in opposition for only 4 years. Before he was in Kibaki side of coalition. Kalonzo Musyoka was the vice president. The only person who is actually a hardened political operator is Raila. These were the gentlemen cannot survive.
And I know that statement will definitely elicit some reaction from Monakiswa Mawe. But before that, we need to look at the options for CORD. Now, what next for the alliance CORD? The scramble for the coalition's presidential candidate ticket and disagreements on how to determine its flag bearer are widening the rift among the member parties, despite its leaders' insistence on a united coalition. Francis Gashuri tells us that CORD's divorce could trigger several potential realignments. Let's take a look.
The weekend sentiments by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka in Tononoka, Mombasa, and his Ford Kenya counterpart Moses Wetangula in Narok County widened the rift in CORD over the choice of the coalition's flag bearer in next year's presidential race.
Tunamwambia wewe mzee sasa umefanya kazi, una heshima yako, you will have a special place in the CORD government.
ODM leader Raila Odinga's supporters, on the other hand, insist he is the most formidable and experienced candidate to face President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto in next year's contest, though Odinga has termed it friendly fire and healthy internal democracy. Picking the coalition's flag bearer remains the elephant in the room, 308 days to the general election.
Either of them can be the flag bearer for the coalition, except that how should they do it? The question how is very critical.
Odinga, Musyoka and Wetangula could opt to retain the 2013 lineup and resolve the current friction, but on the other hand, Musyoka and Wetangula could opt out, forcing Odinga to return to the drawing board. And while the Wiper and Ford Kenya leaders are yet to expressly consider exiting CORD, it remains an option, with the Jubilee Party waiting in the wings to benefit from any fallout in the opposition team.
Honorable Kalonzo has an option, and I would think it could be one option: run on his own.
And should Musyoka and Wetangula exit, Odinga would have to either consider going it alone in next year's polls or attract new partners to craft a 2017 lineup. Amani Congress leader Musalia Mudavadi and KANU chairman Gideon Moi among those mentioned as possible allies in a new political alliance. Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho's rapidly rising political star also seen in context. Odinga garnered 5.3 million votes in the 2013 presidential contest, while Mudavadi got 480,000 votes. At least 760,000 votes that Odinga got in 2013 were from Musyoka's Ukambani political turf, and 755,000 votes were from the Western Kenya region, one of the former Prime Minister's main political strongholds.
More used to win elections on a minority vote. Opposition is shared like 60%, but each getting bits and bits. If that happens again, then the new constitution, which requires 50+1, then we might go to a rerun. At that point, I would think that I would guess that at that point, then the opposition will come together to beat Uhuru Kenyatta at the ballot.
While Musyoka and Wetangula lay claim to the CORD presidential ticket, Odinga's ODM remains the dominant party in the coalition, with a majority of governors, members of parliament and county assembly members. A key reason why Odinga's supporters insist he was the undisputed choice to fly the coalition's flag in next year's race to State House.
Well, that report. Do you agree with the options? Do you see that probably that is the way to go? There are so many different options.
I don't agree with those options. One thing I know is the three parties are going to be together, and obviously, as Bosire clearly puts it, the how is the methodology I've been talking about. So I just want to tell the Kenyans to hold. By January, we're going to have the flag bearer. When you look at the time Kibaki was nominated to be the flag bearer, I mean, it was very close. So to us, issues of coming and saying it is getting late, people are getting agitated, this is our strategy. We don't want to bring this person, and Jubilee is there with Kumeza Martin and Nyamayao, maybe to blackmail and all sorts of things. I don't think we're in any case we are in a crisis. What is going on, it's true, is internal democracy. The parties are strengthening themselves, and the right time we are going to have the flag bearer. As Bosire puts it, the how, the methodology, we are still working on it. We are trying to refine. But the issue is this, as I've said it clearly, that all the three principles have an equal opportunity. It does not mean that the situation that was there in 2013 is the same one is going to be here. As Joe comes in, Joe is not coming as an option. Joe is coming in if it's an option of Raila going an ODM side. So from the analysis, Joe is not an option. Joe can only be an option if Raila is going on its own, as far as ODM is concerned.
Okay. My director informs me that we have very little time, so as we comment, I'd like to ask you to make your final comments as well. Bwana Njogu Barua, of course, the realignments within CORD are definitely generating some interest even within your party. Looking at those options, what do you think? They have more?
I think what is happening is in CORD is not internal democracy, it's internal confusion. What I know is that I suspect is that by the end of the day, even by January next year, they will not have come up the flag bearer. What we should be told now, and what is good for Kalonzo Wetangula, is to say that we are not together. Atuko pamoja. Then they can decide whether to run on their own or join any other side of like-minded partners. Because I don't think Wetangula and Kalonzo have the similar political ideology with Raila Odinga. They are there because they found themselves in that forced marriage. The other thing I would like to say as I close is that in Jubilee side, we are ready to conduct joint nominations for the Jubilee party. But from the side of my county, Kirinyaga County, I would like to say that we have fired the first shot. Any attempt to conduct shadow, corrupt, inept Jubilee elections will be resisted with the force it deserves. The people of Kirinyaga have decided. I'm giving them leadership in this. We are going to oppose this the imposition of leaders by this small cocoon of people who are actually being left orphaned. Because what was happening in Kirinyaga is that all those political parties who merged into one and their officials politically modified. Actually, they are politically modified officials to favor the current establishment. So whichever party that they could have taken and their own officials. So when those parties crashed together, the forces of the day found themselves with control of nothing, and now they want to control Jubilee. I want to tell people, I want to tell Kenyans, that Kirinyaga people are united against corruption, which is against corruption, and we are also very much united against political manipulation. Any form of political manipulation in Kirinyaga, and in particular in my own Gishogo constituency, or our Gishogo constituency, it will be met with the democratic force as they decide, because 50 years after independence, we should be able to elect our own party officials. We should be able to nominate our own party officials so that we can get the leadership and development that we do require. So
to avoid the risk of moving away from what we were discussing, back to the options for CORD and their principles, and of course you had the analysts there saying that Kalonzo has the only option Kalonzo has is to go it alone. Of course, we've talked about Raila's possibility of going it alone, probably with Joho as his running mate, and that has been noted in that report. But do you think that Kalonzo stands a chance if it goes?
Fred, let me tell you something. Kenyans are so tired of Jubilee. They don't want to see Kalonzo, Wetangula and Raila talking at cross purpose. Kenyans want CORD united. I want CORD united. Well, that's what Kenyans want.
Which Kenyans are you talking about?
Let us not do side shows.
Which Kenyans are which Kenyans are you talking about? No, which Kenyans are you talking about? No, you're talking about Kenyans. No.
Let's give him a chance.
No, you cannot generalize Kenyans. Which Kenyans are tired of Jubilee?
We are not talking about
okay, but we
are not talking about a two-tribe party.
No, I'm saying which Kenyans are you talking about? First of all, clarify which Kenyans are you talking about?
For purposes of progress.
You've just seen there on the screen that Uhuru didn't win the last election. I hope you saw.
You have seen where?
In the screen that.
Can you have it played again? I don't want to agree with you.
Raila had 5 point how many million votes? 3. You saw it?
Yes.
And you guys had to rig to get to 50 plus 1%.
You are cheating Kenyans. You are cheating Kenyans. No. We not allow you to.
The main issue was in that is the price you pay by interfering in my turn of thought.
No.
Okay. Now,
gentlemen, let's move on.
My point is this: that Kenyans don't want to see a divided opposition.
Yes.
This is the message that we should send to our leaders in CORD. That they risk the wrath, and in fact, if they try to divide each other, if Wetangula decides to go alone, or Kalonzo tries to go alone, or Raila tries to go alone, they risk the wrath of Kenyans. Kenyans will not trust them going forward. And they better shape up as we speak, they better agree. Because if they have agreed they're going to have a single candidate, why are they speaking against each other?
So this talk of Raila Joho?
No. That is a side show. That one will never rise. Let me tell you something. Joho needs to be governor to strengthen his capacity to be president next time. Joho would not be as foolish to accept to be running mate. For what?
Okay.
Especially, you know, and I'm not a prophet of doom, but there's no way Raila will be president if he goes alone. There's no way Kalonzo will be president if he goes alone. They have to stick together and to liberate this country against the jaws of this Nyama eating Jubilee, mandarins.
Okay.
That must happen.
Okay.
But I want to agree with Jogu on one issue.
And I just apologize for the bad language you have used against me.
Which language?
So you have manners.
Just move on.
No, I mean, manners are universal.
Gentlemen,
if you don't have them, you don't have them.
No.
The issue,
let's move on.
The issue is about party discipline, not just on the members, but on the party itself.
Okay.
The loyalties of individuals that belong to parties should be loyalties to the parties. I've heard you calling me a rebel. You know, loyalties that we have should be to the country, not to the individuals.
Yes.
To the party, not to the officials of the parties.
Okay.
And so I agree with Honorable Barua that if the parties are to convince Kenyans that they can form governments, they must be ready to do free and fair nomination. This is what's going to convince them that they really need to go forward.
Before we come to Bonamluka for the very final comment, a quick one from you, a very quick one, because my director tells me
on behalf of CORD, I want to assure the public that we are very united. Whatever is going on is just the internal democracy, strengthening each other. And by January, we're going to have the flag bearer. And the issue of Joho in this case does not arise at all. There's no way ODM can go on its own and make it. Neither Wiper nor Ford Kenya. What is there? We are united. Wetangula is not going anywhere. He's not leaving CORD. He's not being funded by Jubilee for that matter. We are strongly in CORD coalition. So please, watch this space.
Finally, Bonamluka.
Okay, first, the script that we are seeing is an old script. We have seen it before. In 2013, 2012, 2011, we saw the same dynamics in ODM, and we had the same kind of vibes. People are saying nobody is going away. Raila Odinga was saying Mudavadi is playing these things internally. He's strengthening himself, and ultimately we will be together. When the present DP, William Ruto, was preparing to vacate that space, we had the same kinds of denials. So this denial is not anything new. We know what the reality is. We have had each one of these three leaders telling the others that we can go it alone if you are not willing to play ball. And we cannot dismiss Ali Hassan Joho.
Yes.
Politics is the art of the possible. And as you play, you know that you must have another option. And all these people have got options. And it's also not true to say that if they go it alone, they cannot win. We must place the eyes on the final prize. And the final prize is what happens between the opposition and the government in power. Jubilee would, of course, be praying that if they leave, they go to Jubilee. But if they leave and they don't go to Jubilee, they find other formations and other alliances, then they are going to keep Jubilee very worried. Because these other arrangements could produce dynamics that force the country to go to a presidential rerun. And that presidential rerun will be determined on how these people are treating each other when they are in the opposition. Because if they treat each other with gloves and not with bare knuckles, the possibility that there would be a rerun and they would then come together and vote for whoever is contesting against Jubilee could produce results that Jubilee would not like to see happening. So it's a question of these dynamics. Very finally, they are not strengthening themselves. If we have seen defections into Jubilee, there have been defections from CORD. But if you're having defections from within the same formation, I agree with Barua that that is in fact some form of incest. And the product of any incestuous relationship is always a very disastrous and weak product.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you so much, Bwana Barak Muluka, political analyst. Next to him, David Ochieng, MP for Ugenya, Bwana Chris Umalo, MP for Kiminini, and of course Njogu